Welcome back, everybody. I know that we've had a little bit of a break, for which I'm grateful. I hope you're grateful too, and I also hope that if you're tuning into this, that you've managed to find time to spend with loved ones. Not necessarily family, though if that's your desire and if those are your loved ones, I hope you've had time to spend with them. But I know for some of us, the holidays don't afford us opportunities for different reasons to spend with family. And so I do hope you've had a chance to be with people that you love and care about and that you enjoy being around. It's cold outside, so being inside with people you care about and get along with is an important way to experience joy in these winter months. This last Sunday marked my first Sunday back. I had a couple of Sundays off, and again, very thankful I did get to spend with my family in an environment that's not all that familiar to any of us, New Hampshire, but it was beautiful. It was cold like it is here. We were in the White Mountains, but we had a good time and did not entirely stay clear of sickness, which I think also affected countless numbers of people in Canada, the United States, and probably many other places as well. This last Sunday, when I did step in, I preached on Epiphany. I recognized, of course, that Epiphany was on January the 6th. However, I didn't want to miss speaking on Epiphany. I do enjoy it as a marker in the church calendar. So Chris Fisher kindly agreed to choose hymns and work a service that would be an Epiphany service just after the actual date of Epiphany. So, of course, on Epiphany, many of you will know that we honor the arrival of the Magi. Epiphany in some countries is known as Three Kings Day even. And on Three Kings Day, for example, in Puerto Rico, that's when they do gift exchanges, not on Christmas Day. And so there are various places in the Spanish-speaking world that do honor Three Kings Day in pretty elaborate ways. Not really true for us in this context. However, it's important, and I did want to honor that. And I love the Magi that we had on the altar. I commented in my sermon that one was riding an elephant, the other one a steed, and then the other one a camel. So it was a lovely assortment of diverse animal, vehicular, I don't know what to really say, right? But basically forms of transportation and attire. So I appreciated that. It's always fun to kind of play with our traditions and to build on them and to expand them. However, as I sometimes do, I tried to hint at some of the difficulties that I was experiencing when I looked at the passages that relate to Epiphany, one of which is from the prophet Isaiah. And in the prophet Isaiah, it is predicted that Zion, or Jerusalem, places that at the time of the composition of that text were experiencing uncertainty, tumult, perhaps even diaspora, right? Part of the exile that we know happened when the Babylonians came in and then the Persians came later and allowed them to rebuild temple. But so third Isaiah, the third section in this large prophetic text, speaks of hope and promise and of maybe better days to come. All fine and good. I think we all need a bit of that, right? In this world that is literally on fire at present and continues to experience war and threats, it seems like around every turn. So none of that is bad, and I certainly could have preached on that, but I wanted to take issue with the directionality that was emphasized. We know that very often when people are downtrodden and are feeling bad, one of the motivating tools has been to say, one day you're going to be in that position of power. One day people are going to bring gifts to you. Paulo Freire, one of our ancestors in the faith, reminds us of this temptation in his classic work, Pedagogy of the Oppressed. He says we have to beware that the oppressed, whenever the tables have turned, don't become the oppressor. It is an important, difficult lesson that we must take to heart because so often it happens. Nietzsche, in a much more cynical way, talked about the resentment of oppressed peoples and how really what they want is the power to take vengeance on those that have done them wrong. As people of faith, we can certainly understand that temptation and the reaction that does occur, but we are warned about it and we are told to work against that temptation, to offer forgiveness instead, no matter how long it takes. So the directionality of gifts coming in, which is a different situation than what exists when the author is composing the text. I wanted to say, if we look at our present situation, and maybe the situation over the last few hundred years, we know that some countries or nations have benefited greatly from goods and resources from other places in the world. Oftentimes, those goods and resources weren't carefully negotiated in trade deals, but they were forcibly taken. People were dispossessed of those resources. And so I wanted us to think about some of the colonial heritage that we are still forced to live with, work through, and ultimately dismantle as we look at this flow of goods to certain places, certain few places around the world. We know that many persons and many places have benefited from the tremendous riches of elsewhere. And while we want to recognize the significance of the day of Epiphany, I wasn't trying to disparage that. I did want us to think critically about the direction of goods and services. And I ask in the sermon, is there any way that we can effectively redistribute or redirect those flows so that we can have a world where everybody has enough of what they desperately need and it's not being extracted and sent to a few? So really it's a plea, and I think there's something about Epiphany that, certainly the birth of Jesus, that communicates that, right? God is stepping in, intervening, incarnating, and it is acknowledged as such. And the reason this occurs is because things were out of joint. Things had gotten out of hand, and it is an effort to remedy that. So I hope that we can take this Epiphany season and focus a bit more on ways in which we can offer gifts and not sit back ready to receive them, but how can we redirect those flows that for too long have come to just a few people. So thank you for taking a little bit of time out of your day. I look forward to seeing you this Sunday if you can make it, or by live stream. And of course, we'll be right back here next week.